Hello and welcome to today's daily market update brought to you by Forex.Academy. So in this brief webinar, we'll be taking a look at what is currently moving in the markets. So just before we begin, if we can just ask you to please familiarize yourself with our our disclaimer. Please be aware of the risks involved in trading the financial markets and be prepared for those risks at all times. Okay, so let's get straight. Let's get straight into reviewing today's market movers. Or probably a better way to rephrase it, based on today's price action, is actually looking at today's lack of market movers. So occasionally we do get trading days like this. We'll start with the dollar index, and there seems to be something. There seems to be a little bit of a glitch with today's bit of price action on the daily time frame. So if we look at the 15-minute chart, we are literally just having an issue there with the price feed. So what we can do instead is have a look and at the euro dollar chart, which is it's an inverted picture of the dollar index, and you can see that prices are procrastinating in and around a very, very short range, around the 2380 level. So really not an awful lot to trade, to be fair, over the last 3 days. You would have expected a continuation, at least to the upside, based on Monday's candlestick. However, we've not really seen any major follow through. And it's kind of a similar story across the dollar pairs. Now, we had a rejection of the 43.44 level, and you can see we have this ascending triangle with a bit of price pressure pushing prices up from these lows. But we've clearly seen a bit of a reversal off this level. It has the potential to create a double top. So now we're going to be watching this market from a technical perspective. Those traders that would look to trade it technically would prefer prices to push back a little bit lower. And at that point, it might make sense to actually look to take this market to the upside. However, there's a lot of fundamental news events which have the impact to impact the pound quite significantly. Inflation and retail sales. There's a myriad of data that the Bank of England are looking at very, very closely in terms of looking to increase interest rates. So anything that can impact that decision has the potential to create a significant amount of volatility for the British pound. So we need to bear that in mind. Plus, there's negotiations going on all the time with the European Union, and more recently with regards to the custom union, and the government were on the back end of a losing vote in the House of Lords yesterday, with the potential for more of a soft Brexit, let's say. So all of these factors have the potential to really impact the British pound to varying degrees. So we just want to make sure that we are technically on top of this trade as well, because the fundamentals are a little bit choppy, let's say, for the time being. So a little bit of patience. We would like to see perhaps an entry, maybe at this lower price, maybe at the low 4100 level, something around there. So we'll just bide our time with the pound dollar. Now, most of the other dollar pairs are kind of in this range bound bit of price action. So those are the market conditions in which we're trading. So you must acknowledge that and be fully aware of the market conditions in which you're trying to execute trades. And for us, when we have consolidated markets, we are looking to apply a little bit more patience than perhaps we would ordinarily like to do. Moving on to the New Zealand dollar, you can see this market has been trying to the dollar has tried to strengthen against the New Zealand dollar, as you can see over the last few days. But they are these uncomfortable pullbacks, either on the daily, from the daily lows in the last 4 days, and also from today's high as well. So it's just, it's not surprising, because we are getting a bit of a rollover from these previous highs. as you can see currently on screen. So we do expect this price to push lower, but it is doing it in a very, very choppy fashion. So do bear that in mind if you decide to trade the New Zealand dollar. So moving on to the euro pound, you can see yesterday prices bounced back inside our level of support, which was very supportive of prices over a course of 3 or 4 months. And as you can see, last week we were able to break to the downside with conviction, and we've since retraced that initial move. So we're actually now trading back above the 86.91 level, which is quite important. And today, as you can see, today's price action is struggling to break that price to the downside. So it'll be interesting to see if we get that next leg lower, or whether prices start to operate back inside this significant range bound bit of price action here. So a little bit of patience on that one. Regarding the euro yen, we're struggling to push higher, although it definitely has a bullish bias, meaning we do expect prices to push higher. It's just doing so in a very, very choppy fashion. So you do want to bear that in mind if you decide to trade the euro yen in these current market conditions. Okay, so that just about wraps up the review of the an update on the currency pairs. Moving on to the global indices, we look at the American indices first, the US, and we can see that prices started to roll over to the downside, and then a little bit of buying pressures come back into this market fairly recently. So again, relatively choppy price action. We want to just reserve a little bit of judgment when we look across the US indices. You can see prices procrastinating a little bit. The Nasdaq is looking quite bearish. So when you get a myriad of different outlooks, what it does to us as traders is it allows us to just pause fractionally. It allows us to just take stock of what's happening, and it allows us to just bide our time with some of these markets. And that's really the call for today's trading. Be a little bit patient. Don't necessarily commit significant amounts of your capital to markets that are like this, because as you can see, we've looked across quite a number of markets now, and we've actually only have one market that's moving with any significant volatility in a direction in which is going with the market. So sometimes you do get trading conditions like this. So it's just important to kind of learn from trading conditions that are a little bit on the choppy side. Okay, so this is the FTSE. We are threatening to break higher, but as you can see, today's price action is fairly limited. So we're not really getting the follow through we would expect on that. Same situation for the DAX in Germany. So we are still above the 12,567 level, but it's not filling us with any great joy in terms of the price action over the last day or two. Last couple of markets, moving on to a couple of commodity markets. Let's start by looking at the gold. And this is a similar situation to the euro dollar. We're in this sideways moving market, and prices are sort of gathering around the 1350 level and really struggling to either break to the upside or to the downside for that matter. So again, a little bit of patience is required. And the only market in this market review that is moving in line with the market happens to be the US oil or the crude oil market. So we had the explosive move above the 66.58. We saw prices pull back. We created a bit of a hammer structure in this market, clearing out the bottom of the market, and we broke above it and continued to push higher. Now, there is fundamentals rowing in behind this particular move as well. So that's really what you're looking for as a trader, is to maybe get a technical entry with the fundamentals behind that move, and it enables you to capture significant moves like that. So in today's price action, we've seen continuation to the upside. It's looking like it's bouncing off our upper trend line, and we're getting a little bit of resistance on this particular move. We're pulling back to the low $69 level. So let's see what is next for this particular market. So we do expect prices to continue higher. However, from a technical perspective, we have the potential to just roll over to the downside, even if it's briefly, before we get that next leg higher. So please do bear that in mind. So that just about concludes this daily market update. So all that's left for me to do now is to thank you very much for joining us. Do take care, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.